Obinna moved through the cold streets like a ghost, his presence barely acknowledged, yet always watched. Here, in this foreign city, I was bound by rules to remain silent, able only to witness his journey from a distance, a stranger in a land that wouldn't let him belong. As I watched him, I often wondered, how long could he endure the weight of being invisible, yet painfully seen? For years had passed since he left Nigeria, carrying his mother's words with him like a torch in the darkness. Go and find a better life. Make us proud. But this small, gray town in Eastern Europe offered no warmth. From the moment he arrived, he was met with cold stares, whispers, and a constant reminder that he was different. People looked away when he walked into shops, and children stared wide-eyed at his skin, tugging at their mothers, who pulled them close. Each morning, as I watched him trudge to work, I saw the way his shoulders bore an invisible weight. His footsteps were heavy, yet his resolve unwavering. Obinna worked at a construction site, a place where men didn't miss a chance to remind him he didn't belong. They mocked his accent, ignored him, even ridiculed his efforts to learn the language. But Obinna remained undeterred, pushing his body to the limits, lifting bricks until his muscles burned, taking on extra shifts so he could send money back to Nigeria. But at night, in the solitude of his cramped apartment, I saw his spirit grow tired. He would sit by the window, staring out into the darkness, the silence broken only by the faint sounds of Igbo music drifting from a small radio he had saved to buy. In those moments, he wasn't just lonely. He was trapped, longing for connection but bound by the isolation surrounding him. And I, too, was trapped, helpless in my role, unable to break the silence, unable to say the one thing I knew he needed to hear. You are not alone. One afternoon, as I followed from a distance, Obinna entered a small grocery store. He moved cautiously, hoping for a moment of peace, a simple exchange. But as he reached the counter, the store owner pulled back with disgust. "We don't want your kind here," she said, her voice cold and sharp. I saw the pain flash in Obinna's eyes, a pain I'd seen too many times. He left the items on the counter, his spirit bruised, but he didn't let the moment break him. I admired his strength. Even as he walked away empty-handed, his head held high. In the weeks that followed, I saw him avoid that store and others like it, places where he knew he would only find rejection. But he couldn't avoid the stares, the whispers, the rude gestures that followed him wherever he went. I watched him keep his head down, his steps quickening, as though trying to disappear. But no matter how hard he tried, he remained a black man in a town determined to remind him that he was different. And all I could do was watch, bound by the rules that held me back, even as I wanted to reach out, to reassure him. Then, one evening, as Obinna waited for the last bus home, a small, unexpected moment unfolded. A little boy approached him, wide-eyed, his innocence cutting through the cold indifference of the town. "Are you from Africa?" the child asked, his voice filled with curiosity, not malice. Obinna's face softened as he replied, "Yes," managing a smile. But just as quickly, the boy's mother pulled him away, her expression one of fear and disdain. And yet, in that fleeting interaction, I saw a small spark in Obinna, a reminder that there was still innocence, that maybe not everyone was against him. He carried that small hope with him, and I could see it. He began practicing the language more earnestly, even though his co-workers mocked him. Each word he learned became a small victory, a step closer to breaking the barrier. I admired his perseverance, his quiet resolve to learn and grow despite the indifference around him. One winter, after months of saving, Obinna bought a small radio. Each night, soft strains of Igbo music would fill his apartment, a quiet sanctuary in the harsh foreign world. I could see the music bring him comfort, a link to his home that eased his lonely nights. And though I remained at a distance, that music was a small solace even for me, a reminder of his warmth, his strength, his resilience. Then one day, something unexpected happened. I saw him speaking with an elderly man in the park who recognized his accent. The man, who had worked in Nigeria years before, greeted Obinna in broken Igbo, and for the first time, I saw Obinna's face light up with true joy. They laughed, sharing stories and memories, and for a brief moment, he wasn't alone. I watched them talk, feeling relief wash over me, knowing that finally, someone had broken the silence that surrounded him. As the years passed, Obinna changed. He grew stronger, not just in body, but in spirit. The struggles he faced had shaped him, turning him into a man of quiet resilience, someone who no longer sought the approval of those who withheld it. He no longer tried to disappear. He walked with his head held high, a quiet strength radiating from him. Then one day he was gone, He had returned to Nigeria, his journey here complete. But he was not the same man who had arrived seeking a better life. He was now stronger, resilient, a quiet warrior who carried his scars like badges of honor. As I walk the streets now, I remember Obinna's story, a tale of endurance, of strength born from silence, and the quiet dignity that saw him through. Though he never knew, he left a mark on those who watched, a reminder that even in the coldest places, courage can thrive.